All right, so joining me now is Jordan Pagkalinawan of Last Word on Sports. How you doing today, Jordan?
Doing well, Eamon. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, appreciate you coming on. So today we're just going to do a deep dive into the Lakers season, talk about the Luka Doncic trade and how that's working out so far, and then just overall projecting how the Lakers are looking headed into the playoffs. So yeah, let's just get into it. First thing, let's talk about obviously the big story with this team has been the trade for Luka Doncic and pairing him with LeBron James. Obviously, one of the most shocking moves. But were you kind of surprised just how quickly things worked out and how quickly LeBron and Luka were sort of able to figure things out? Obviously, LeBron's out right now with an injury. We can get into that a little bit later. But overall, when those two have been on the court together, they've looked awesome and they have a really strong record. So were you surprised at all by that, or was this sort of what you expected?
It was a little bit of both. Honestly, I knew after LeBron had gotten used to AD for almost 6 seasons, naturally this would take a little bit of getting used to. But the way that they've gelled pretty quickly has been surprising in the manner that they've done it as well. Because you look at guys who are and just wizards with the ball, scoring and passing. They've just been excellent together, and they're able to, I think, play off each other pretty well. It's been obviously a smaller ish sample size the first month or so of the trade, but so far I've loved what I've seen from both of them, how they're able to get each other involved. LeBron was talking about him being the wide receiver and Luka being the QB. That pairing's just been that sums it up right there. It's perfect for both of them, but also the way that they've been able to get the other guys involved as well. Reeves has been looking great. Hachimura, I know he's been out right now, but he looks promising, still maintaining his starter role once he gets back. But yeah, no, it was a little surprising just how they've been able to gel with each other so quickly after LeBron obviously got used to throwing up lobs to AD, and now he has to receive passes from Luka Doncic.
Yeah, for sure. I think it's a little bit interesting. Just these players, they're very similar. So in some ways, seeing that at first, it might have been a little bit concerning. How are they going to play off ball and stuff like that? But as LeBron's aged, he's really thrived off ball. And then, to your point, just two players that have that high of a basketball IQ, it's really hard to stop. And they're always going to sort of figure it out just based off how smart they are as basketball players. So I think that really makes a lot of sense. And then LeBron's shooting over the last couple of years, I think, has really helped him make it work with a guy like Luka. Now we have to talk about LeBron's injury. He's out 1 to 2 weeks right now with a groin injury. How do you think the team's going to hold up with him? We've only seen them play one game at the time of this recording, and that game didn't look so great against the Nets. How do you think that this team's going to hold up without him? And are you concerned at all by this groin injury, just with it being sort of that tissue injury and LeBron's age?
Naturally, it is concerning, I think, because he had the same thing back in 2018 that sidelined him for 17 or so games, and obviously very different circumstances at the time. But this time around, the it doesn't seem as severe, which is hopeful. But obviously, with such a new team, now you're really asking them to step up in his absence with in a higher role and with bigger implications, because when he went down in 18, they were still very solid in the West, but they started slipping, as the season went on. This time around, they're like third, second in the West, and they're hanging on to that spot, honestly, for dear life. The Brooklyn game did not, like you said, it was honestly a travesty. I watched that and I was just like, what were we doing? Like, obviously, it doesn't help having three other starters out too, but like, it a lot of the guys have to pick up the slack, and that obviously starts with Luka, and the accountability he's been holding himself to has just been wonderful to see. But it's also on guys like Austin, Finney Smith. Once he gets back, he's going to be huge. Vanderbilt as well. Even guys like Jordan Goodwin, who's on a two-way contract, but who could very well play his way to a standard deal. It's all on them to step up in his absence, whether it's 1 week, 2 weeks, maybe even longer. Who knows? But yeah, it's concerning with him going down at 40 years old, and also a but with a superstar like Luka, who is capable of putting up 30, maybe even 40 a night, I'm not too worried about him, but they just have to show out way better than they did against Brooklyn. And Redick lighting them on fire after that loss, hopefully that sets them off and inspires them to play better against Milwaukee, Denver, teams like that.
Yeah, definitely. I think you really nailed it there, especially just with LeBron's age. You got to be a little bit concerned. Looking at the Western Conference standings right now, the Lakers are really hovering between that 2-4 range. Currently, they're the 4 seed. They're actually only a half game above the Rockets as well, so they're really hovering between that 2-5 range. Looking at the teams within that range, the Rockets, Warriors, and Timberwolves, are there any teams that you'd prefer to face off against in the first round? And conversely, are there any teams that you'd sort of prefer to avoid of that group?
I kind of like our chances against all of them, but there was a team you like really had to probably like our chances against the Rockets, even though they have a legitimate center in Şengün. That'd be my only main concern against them. Just having someone like him be a problem on the boards against a guy like Jackson Hayes or the smaller guys in Jared Vanderbilt and Finney Smith. That's definitely a concern. Golden State, what a battle that would be between LeBron and Curry again, especially seeing how Butler does as well. You got two incredible duos out of the West facing off against each other. That'd be a really fun matchup, but also a interesting one because you still have a guy like Draymond who can be a little pesky at times. Timberwolves in a similar vein. You never know what could happen with Ant. We've seen it before, him going off for God knows what in the postseason. He's definitely a firecracker that the Lakers should be wary of, and obviously a guy like Gobert becomes important with the departure of Davis and the Lakers' lack of size, which is going to be huge. But I do genuinely like our chances against all of them. It's just with at least two of the three having solid centers, that's absolutely an area of concern that should be shored up once the regular season dies down and we really get a taste of what this team looks like against really great competition in the West.
Yeah, for sure. I think some of those center play could be a little bit challenging for the Lakers. At the same time, I do lean Lakers in all those series. I think one advantage they have, especially against the Rockets, would just be their playoff experience. When you look at Luka Doncic and LeBron James, they're two of the best playoff performers in the league. And this Rockets team really hasn't had a full playoff series together, so I think that would be a big advantage. I mean, that Lakers-Warriors series would be awesome to see, another LeBron and Curry matchup in the playoffs, so that would be a really fun one as well. And I think the Warriors, especially with their experience, could give them a challenge, but at the same time, they do sort of have a similar lineup where they have solid size overall, but no natural center. So that would be a really interesting one. And then the Timberwolves have really been coming on as of late, and sort of their front court size could be a little bit challenging, but at the same time, I would definitely lean Lakers in that scenario. But nevertheless, the Timberwolves put together a really impressive run in the playoffs last year, so they really can't be ignored as well. And the other thing I want to talk about is just the Lakers' defense, because it has been really surprising to me. I mean, look at last 2 months have been the top defense in the league. They started out in 2024, that portion of the season, they were just 23rd in defense. So what do you sort of make of this jump, and who do you sort of credit for? Yeah.
I think it's a team thing all around because these guys have just been bought in on the defensive end for most of the season, even when we still had AD. But ever since Luka came around, he's just added such a different look, obviously, to this team. With us not having, obviously, the 10-time All-Star in Davis, but guys like Finney Smith, Vanderbilt being back has just been huge. Doncic, he's obviously taking the criticisms of his lack of defense and whatnot, but I got a feeling he can prove people wrong, sooner than later. And you see guys like, again, Finney Smith and Vandal stepping up big time this season. It's just been huge, and it rubs off on everyone else, I think. Even Reeves has looked solid. LeBron, he's going to do his thing. But, it's just been a team thing all around that they've just been bought into, and Redick has done such an excellent job putting the expectation on them being like, I want to be a top 10 defense. They haven't always looked that way, but after the Doncic trade, and with the way they're playing right now, they can definitely be that way. Top 10, maybe top 5 if they hold on toward the end of the season.
For sure. I think it's really interesting just to think about this team. As we mentioned before, they don't really have that natural center. However, they're just so versatile defensively, and we really did see that specifically in the Nuggets game. Just how they were double teaming Jokic often. Hachimura played a big role in that. Dorian Finney-Smith, Vanderbilt, all those guys that you mentioned really played a massive role. And I do think that can sort of negate some of the concerns with the lack of a center, just because they're so versatile, they're so switchable, and they do have a lot of good positional size, even if they don't have that traditional big man there. I mean, even like Luka and LeBron have been playing really solid defense, in my opinion, especially LeBron recently, and those two have great positional size. So I think that's really massive for them. And I do think the other interesting part of this is it's been going on for 2 months now, so we've seen it since Luka's joined the team, and even dating back a little bit before he was with the team. A 2 month sample size is significant in my eyes. It's not one thing where it's like, oh, post All-Star break, they have the best defense in the league. I think that I would look at that a little bit differently, or even if it was like the last 5 games or whatever, I would certainly look at that a little differently than the last 2 months because, like I said, it's just more of a significant sample size. So I think this really does bode well for the Lakers, especially come playoff time. It just shows their versatility and their ability to win multiple styles of games, which I think is really crucial heading into the playoffs.
Absolutely.
Then, the other thing I want to talk about is sort of J.J. Redick's role in this on both ends of the floor. He was sort of seen as a controversial hire, obviously not having that head coaching experience, and he has a very close connection with LeBron. Obviously, they're good friends. They had the podcast last year and stuff like that. But what do you make of J.J. as a head coach and sort of his approach on both ends of the floor?
He's been an absolute breath of fresh air to me, and I think a lot of fans feel the same way. He's just been his accountability, his modern approach to the game, given that he retired only a few years ago and played in the more modernish NBA. He's just been so innovative with his schemes and really been unafraid, as we saw against Brooklyn, to call people out, hold them accountable, hold them to the fire, and just expect them to play better. I mean, all this stuff about like Darvin Ham with his hands in his pockets and all that sort of stuff. Ham was a good coach at times, but he was definitely a headache and drew ire from a lot of fans, rightfully so. But Redick has just been a polar opposite. He's had a lot more structure with this group, a lot of accountability, and he just has found ways and made adjustments to where we can be down quite a few possessions, and he can still find a way to, if not get us to come back win, find ways to get us there as close as possible. I think, not having a coach, not having the full experience is certainly a factor, but he's been able to adjust like a charm, and the fact that he has a bunch of experienced assistant coaches in McMillan, Brooks, even I believe Lindsey Harding, who was in the G League for a while, like that helps a lot, having him being around him and having those more experienced voices lending their expertise to the first timer. That's huge for him.
Yeah, no, definitely. I think he's really been an awesome hire so far. And at least for me, one thing that surprised me is just his defense. I think we obviously touched upon the defense earlier, but at the same time, I was definitely expecting some creativity from the offensive schemes, especially just knowing who JJ is as a player, how awesome he was off ball and stuff like that, how often he would really talk about offense on his show. But I wasn't expecting the defensive side of things really to be this good, and for them to really have this great of a defense, it's really surprised me. And some of the schemes he's running is truly incredible. Obviously, we saw that in the Denver win, like we talked about earlier. But I mean, throughout really every game I've watched, that the defense has really stood out, and just how often they switch, how hard they play. I think that's a testament to JJ. And there's no reason for this defense to be so good if you just sort of look at the talent that they have. It's super impressive that they've been able to really carry this on without Anthony Davis, and even improve defensively after Davis has left. It's really shocking, and I think that's just a testament to JJ. And then sort of the rotations, I think, have really been cleaned up. I know that was a big talking point for the Lakers last season with Darvin Ham. He definitely had some more questionable rotations, so that's another thing I would look at with JJ. And I just think another important factor is just how he can relate to the players. He's always going to sort of keep it real with them. He's never going to hold back. He does have these good relationships with LeBron and Luka, so I think that's huge. And I think it really goes to show the most important things are sort of creativity on both ends of the floor, obviously, and then just being able to relate to players. I think we see time and time again just the value of former players coaching, and they really do resonate with players a lot more. So I think that's another huge factor for JJ.
1,000%.
Now, you think about it's a kind of a loaded field for Coach of the Year, but do you think JJ can sneak into maybe the top 3 or even potentially win the award?
That's a bit of a tough one. I think if he keeps this up and the Lakers have the results to back him up, I think he certainly has a chance. I believe he'd be one of only a handful of coaches, if knock on wood he actually does it, to be the first time coach that wins Coach of the Year. But yeah, he's been doing such an excellent job that, and the Lakers have been doing so well at times that you can't really overlook him in that aspect. Sure, Mark Daigneault has just been incredible for the Thunder. Mazzulla's been awesome for the Celtics, but I think Redick is starting to slowly but surely starting to carve his way into that sort of conversation, especially with the way the Lakers have been playing. Like, you look, CBS Sports ranked him the last best head coach in their rankings prior to the season started. He's taken other narratives about him and just blown them out of the water, proven them wrong so far. So yeah, I like his chances. I don't want to say he's a clear-cut favorite, obviously, but he's got a shot. I'll say that.
Yeah, definitely. I think if the season ended today, I think either J.B. Bickerstaff or Kenny Atkinson would probably take home the award. I think what they've done is so impressive, and I think that will probably hold true, but at the same time, I do think J.J. can sort of sneak into that third spot, especially if the Lakers are able to maintain a top 3 seed. I think that would really bode well for him, and he's just, I think we really hit on it earlier, but he's done just an incredible job overall. Another player I want to talk about, we sort of mentioned him earlier, but didn't truly dive in. Austin Reeves, he's made a big jump this year. I think going into last year, I sort of viewed him as maybe a most improved player candidate. He had a very solid season, but sort of stayed the same as in past years, but this year, the offensive jump is really there. I think his playmaking has really taken another level as well, and he's really emerged as that clear-cut third guy for them. So, yeah, what do you make of Reeves' season so far?
He's been wonderful. I mean, I noticed the jump with him right away, too, and his ability to thrive in a lot of situations, whether that was still with LeBron and AD or even now with LeBron and Luka. He's cemented himself as, like you said, the Lakers' third best guy. And it was a little surprising to start the season because obviously we still had D'Lo and he was still the primary ball handler. But once he left, Reeves kind of shifted a little bit to the point guard role. He took that on, handled it like a champ. With Luka coming, he's shifted back to the 2, and he's been able to put on these monster performances with or without LeBron. So he's just been such an incredible talent for us. Well deserved of the most recent contract that he got, and he is definitely going to be a bridge, I think, once LeBron retires. It's more than likely going to be Luka and Reeves and whoever else the Lakers get in free agency. Now, obviously, we hopefully don't have to worry about that for a little while longer, but Reeves has just been incredible, and he's shut down all the criticisms around him, and fans wanted him traded at certain points early on in his career. He's proven those doubters wrong. He's just been a force. He's been able to mesh well with so many different iterations of the Lakers over his career, and especially this season, that he's just been unbelievable. Most improved player. Yeah, he has a case, I think. But he's just been unreal for LA.
Yeah, absolutely. He's been awesome, and I like your point about the contract. He's making $12 million this year, just under 13, and then just under 14 the next year. I mean, I remember when he signed that deal, I was a big fan of it, but it's looking even better with the jump he's taken, and it's really looking like one of the better value contracts in the league. So that's huge for a Lakers team, especially when you have Luka and LeBron under those massive contracts, just to get those value pieces. And Reeves is awesome. I think we sort of mentioned this earlier with the Lakers' positional size, even if they don't have a traditional big. Reeves is another one of those guys. He's 6'5", so he does really have solid positional size there. And then we did discuss earlier the Lakers without LeBron. Are you expecting a big stretch from Reeves during this next week or two, or do you think he'll sort of maintain his level of play and we'll more so see just a crazy Luka stretch?
Personally, I'd kind of hope for a bit of both. I do want Reeves to go off against contenders, just really, really show his worth against his opponents without LeBron. He already said it against Brooklyn that he has to be better without James, and going forward, I think he has a real shot to do that. And so yeah, I expect Reeves to take it to a higher level than what he has done so far without LeBron. But also, this is a huge chance for Luka to show us why we traded for him in the first place. He's already been able to put up 30 points with LeBron. Who knows what he can do without him? And now that he has like a full control of the offense, I would not be surprised to see him get quite a few monster triple doubles without LeBron. Really boost his confidence and build up his comfortability in LA, so that once LeBron does get back, then you have a rested and recovered LeBron. Combine that with Luka Doncic playing out of his mind and Reeves hopefully doing the same, that's going to be huge, especially in the last week of March, first couple weeks of April, with the regular season winding down. So this stretch is a huge opportunity for both Luka and Reeves to step up in a huge way and hopefully build that momentum to play that sort of way once LeBron gets back and the games really, really start to matter. Not to say that the ones right now don't matter like they do, but like as we get into the throes of the postseason, having big performances from Luka and Reeves is going to be huge for the Lakers.
Yeah, most definitely, and I think that's a great point about just sort of balancing Luka and Reeves, and I do think we can see sort of a big stretch from both of them, and definitely also depends on the matchups a little bit. I think some matchups will more so lend itself to Luka, some maybe to Reeves, and we've really seen Reeves have some massive games. I think he had that 45-point game earlier this season, which was just absolutely insane. So yeah, I think we'll see a big stretch from them, and I think it will be huge, to your point, just building momentum before the playoffs. I think everyone will sort of be in tip-top shape, especially as long as LeBron can recover from this injury. And they'll be in a really great position overall. So, yeah. Next thing I want to ask you about, are there any sort of underappreciated players you think deserve a little bit of a shout-out that are making more of an impact than people might realize?
I think the first name that comes to mind when you ask that is Goodwin for LA. I mean, I've harped on it before, I've written about him before, but he's absolutely played his way toward a fully guaranteed deal at some point in the near future, hopefully very soon, because, I mean, his ability to shoot at an efficient clip has just been huge. He came in as a defensive-minded guard, which is what the Lakers really needed in the backcourt, and he's just filled that role and more with his opportunities. He's just been wonderful for the Lakers, who've been pretty good at the guard slot, but having a young guy like Goodwin who does have NBA experience, but him playing his way, trying to prove his worth, has just been amazing to see, and hopefully he gets that fully guaranteed contract sooner than later. But another guy, Gabe Vincent, has just been huge for the Lakers. I know he was pretty frustrating for fans last season, completely understandably so, because, you're signed to a 3-year, $33 million deal. You're expected to contribute right away, but him, between the injuries and the ineffectiveness on the court when he did play, that tempered expectations a little bit. But for him to, again, a common theme, proving the doubters wrong, he's just been huge for the Lakers in multiple ways, being that dogged defender, being the guy who can hit threes and facilitate at a very solid clip. He's been really good for the Lakers, even as a backup. And with LeBron out, I think he's another guy who could really get a good workload in, whether it's as a starter or coming off the bench again. So those two guys have been huge for the Lakers, very much undervalued, and really excited to see what they do as the regular season winds down.
Yeah, for sure. I think those are two great ones. Goodwin was a guy beginning of the season I wasn't super familiar with, but then every time I was watching games, he would just sort of stand out. I really like his energy. He provides a ton of value on both ends of the court, so he's been huge and great story. I always love seeing those two-way guys really make an impact, so that's an awesome one. And then Gabe Vincent was a signing back in 2023 I was very high on, especially coming off that big run with Miami. As you mentioned, sort of last year's injuries, and when he was on the court, he wasn't the best. A little bit disappointed, but this year he's really stepped up, especially after D'Angelo Russell got traded. They didn't have Luka at that point, so they really did need some more guard play, and he really stepped up nicely, and I do really like his game as well. Another guy I want to give a shout-out to, I don't know how underrated he is, especially in Lakers circles. I do think he gets talked about a lot, and on sort of NBA Twitter and stuff like that. Dorian Finney-Smith, he's been huge, especially as we discussed earlier with the defense. He's one of the better and more versatile defenders in the NBA. I wouldn't be upset at all if he made an all-defensive team. And just one stat I want to bring up about Finney-Smith is he has a plus 12.5 net difference. So the Lakers are just significantly better with him on the court, and that goes on both ends of the court. They're just a lot better with him, and just speaks to his value overall. I mean, defensively, as we discussed, just super versatile, guards multiple positions, super impactful there, can disrupt plays off ball or sort of lock you down on ball. And then offensively, I think he's just a really perfect fit next to Luka and LeBron. He can just sort of stand in that corner and be that spot up shooter. And then he also makes the extra pass. He always sort of makes the right play. So just having guys like that can play off ball next to Luka and LeBron is just really vital. So DFS is definitely a guy I just wanted to give a quick shout out to.
Absolutely. Yep.
Has there been anything surprising about him once he got traded to the Lakers, or was this just sort of a move that you were always all in on?
I was honestly all in on it ever since the Lakers got him. He finally filled the 3-and-D wing role that we really needed at that point in time. And since then, he's just done everything that I'm sure Redick has asked of him and more. What particularly stood out to me was, I think, when he was still with Brooklyn, there was this one stat where he was in like the top 15 or something like that of guarding centers, which was really interesting as a guy who's like a 6'7" wing. You don't see a lot of that in the NBA, but with small ball, you kind of have to. But his ability to, like you said, be versatile on defense and make the right plays on offense, and particularly be used as a small ball 5 in certain situations, it's unorthodox, but it's nice. It's definitely nice to have, especially with a guy like Hayes being injured, Vanderbilt kind of sort of being the 5 in certain situations, and then you have two-way guys who are just limited by their contracts. Having someone like Finney Smith, when he's healthy, able to be physical in the paint, score at will, but also be that spot-up shooter has just been tremendous for Redick and the Lakers. He's just been unbelievable since the day he put on the jersey. So really excited to see what he does the rest of the season and hopefully beyond.
Yeah, for sure. He's just been an incredible acquisition. And D'Angelo Russell, obviously a pretty talented player, but just fit-wise and basketball-wise, DFS is just, he's perfect for this team. And just, awesome move. And Pelinka's done a really incredible job this year. Especially Luka trade as well. Pairing that with the Finney Smith move, it's been awesome, and he's done a great job. Would you be surprised if Pelinka ends up winning Executive of the Year? Not necessarily because of what he did in the offseason, which is what the award's traditionally reserved for, but especially obviously the Luka trade, and then to a lesser extent the Finney Smith trade.
A little bit. He absolutely helped his case at the deadline with Luka, and obviously had we picked up Mark Williams, that would have bolstered it even more, but, it is what it is. But, Pelinka's just been amazing. He's taken a team that didn't have a ton of expectations before, and he's just flipped them around once again in the middle of the year when no one really expected. Obviously, no one really expected that sort of jump from them, but if he finds a way to land in the top 3, I think he has a very solid case for Executive of the Year, no matter if anyone wants to discredit him, which I'm sure they will. But he's just taken this team and done a almost complete 180 with them, with the way that they're playing now compared to what they were doing before. I think he took whatever LeBron said about, we have to play this way because we have no other choice. He's taken that and given him and Redick a bunch of help, obviously, in Luka and Finney Smith, and just found guys like Goodwin who are able to contribute right away, these little diamonds in the rough. So, I think he deserves it, with the way that he's handled the whole season, and any results after that the Lakers do it, it's just going to be the cherry on top for him.
Yeah, definitely. I think it's interesting just to think about how he sort of reinvented himself, to your point, a total 180. I feel like at some points in the season, people might have considered him towards the bottom of GMs in the league, but he just made some awesome moves, and there's no denying it. And just how good the Lakers have been, I think he sort of deserves to be at the center of those conversations for sure. All right, thinking about just big picture sort of contention things, are there any concerns you have with this team headed into the playoffs? I know we mentioned the center rotation. How much of a concern is that for you, or do you have any other concerns with this team?
I think it's still a concern for me because, don't get me wrong, Jackson Hayes has looked really solid ever since Luka joined the Lakers. But I don't know, there's just something about the other bigs in the West, and Holmgren and Jokic, Zoo, and any of those other guys that certain matchups, Hayes may not be the favored one for obvious reasons, then that forces you to look to other options, which as of right now, you kinda don't really have. Vanderbilt has been really great and really versatile defensively, but you can't ask him to guard a Jokic for 25, 30, 40 minutes. And guys like, as of right now, obviously, Trey Jemison and Christian Koloko, those guys on two ways, they're not playoff eligible as far as I know. So now you're gonna ask Finney Smith to pick up the slack on that sort of stuff, and you run into these small ball lineups which don't really have a huge chance of success. So the center position is absolutely a concern for me heading into the postseason with this group, unless they find ways to win outside of that, and I think they can. But when you have teams that have a focal point. When you have teams that have a center as their focal point, it's kind of hard to stop them unless you do what you did to Jokic, which is triple team him and deny the ball every single catch he gets on the post. Yeah, center is going to be a huge thing for me. I really want to see how Redick adjusts in the playoffs, assuming they get a team that does have a really solid center like maybe even Şengün or Smith, even though he's a 4. Just matching up size-wise, it's going to be interesting to see how they handle that. That's going to be big. And then the other thing I kind of want to mention is, it's not that it's bigger a concern, but I do want to see how the guards handle it. Like, Luke is obviously a proven player. AR has been great. But guys like Vincent, can he replicate what he did in Miami off the bench for the Lakers? Connect. He's a rookie. He's probably going to be thrust into the postseason early on. How is he going to handle that as a 23-year-old first-year guy in the league? So the guards are going to have to step up, and there's no doubt that they can. And then health is going to be the biggest thing going forward, because this team, as great as they are, as great as they've been, a stretch like the next week or two is really going to be huge and really going to say a lot about their ability to step up when the playoffs come, and if injuries arise, how are they going to handle that adversity? So health and center-wise is going to be those are the two biggest priorities, I think, two biggest concerns for me with the Lakers. Guard play, not as much, but that's also something to look out for.
Yeah, absolutely. I think you really hit on everything nicely there. I mean, obviously, as we talked about really throughout the episode, the center play is going to be crucial, especially in the West. There's just so many great centers. But at the same time, the defense and how great the defense has been really does give me a little bit more confidence in the Lakers, especially in a playoff setting. And then the stat you brought up about Finney Smith earlier about how often he guards centers is super impressive, and I think that could benefit them. But at the same time, in a 7-game series, when you're going up against an elite center, it's going to be definitely a tough battle for them. And then obviously health is just crucial, no matter who you are, but especially when you have LeBron coming off the injury. Luka was injured earlier this year. I mean, health is just something any team should note, but definitely for the Lakers as well. And then guard play, I thought you brought up an interesting point there. Sort of on a similar note, the only other thing I might want to mention is just they are bottom 10 in three-pointers made and bottom 10 in three-pointers attempted as well. I think they're a little bit better than their three-point numbers might show. They definitely have a lot of capable shooters throughout the roster, but in a playoff series, sometimes it does sort of just turn into that numbers game, especially if you look at a potential first-round matchup for them, the Golden State Warriors. Obviously, the Curry and LeBron factor there would make for an awesome series, but at the same time, I think the Warriors might have a little bit of an advantage there just based off how good of a shooting team they are. And I think that doesn't matter against certain teams like the Nuggets as much because they're towards the bottom three-point shooting as well, but you go against a Warriors team, you go against even a Timberwolves team who's been shooting the ball at a pretty high clip this year as well, even Oklahoma City Thunder team. I think that those are teams that it would sort of come into play a little bit more, and a little bit of a concern there, although when you have Luka and LeBron at the same time, I can't be too concerned just because of how many open shots they're able to create for their teammates, and really especially LeBron, how good of a shooter he has been, shooting the ball over 40% this year, which is just extremely impressive. So another sort of minor concern for me there. In terms of just contention conversation, how confident are you that the Lakers can make it out of the West? Are there other teams you might like over them, or are you ready to pick them to win the West?
As much as I love them, I'm not too sure they can get out of the West quite yet because of some of the flaws that we had discussed earlier, and the fact that they don't have a true, like maybe one true center, and health has just been a bit of an issue for them. I'd still probably take OKC to come out of the West just with the way Shea's been playing. He's been on an elite level, and then you have just some absolute incredible defenders in Caruso, he's obviously former Laker. He's been pesky on the ball stopping side for a lot of his career. Lou Dort, obviously huge piece for them. Jalen Williams, even though he's been hurt recently, he's just reached another level with this group. So OKC, as of right now, they're playing so well, and they're already at north of 50 wins that I would take them over the Lakers, even though I said I kind of liked them in that would have wanted to face them in that matchup, but still they have a chance to win the West, possibly win the whole darn thing, when it's all said and done if I had to pick. So yeah, OKC is a huge threat. Joker, he's been incredible for the Nuggets, and he could very well be on his way to another MVP, but I think the Denver's bench has been a little concerning at times in the fact that the Lakers were able to beat them with such a new look team. Maybe they're not invincible as a lot of people think they are. So I think if I had to pick, OKC would probably be definitely be a favorite to win out of the West over the Lakers, even though they've looked solid up to this point.
Yeah, for sure. I think I would have OKC and Denver over them as well. At the same time, I'm not going to count the Lakers out, and they're a very strong number 3 in the West, and I think they still do have a very solid chance to make it out of the West. I wouldn't rule that out, but yeah, I would lean more so OKC or Denver when making my predictions. I think, like you said, they're just both a little bit more of a complete team so far. I think if the Lakers had a center, it would be a little bit of a different story, to be honest, but at the same time, overall, I think the Lakers are in a great position, obviously. And Luka really just extends their timeline and gives them a clear succession plan after LeBron. And LeBron's still playing at an extremely high level. He's still a top 10 level player in the league. So these next few years, however long he chooses to play for, they're still going to be in that contention conversation. And this offseason, I would expect them to sort of upgrade that center position and really be at the forefront of the title contention conversation again, and maybe even moving past Denver or OKC next year. It totally depends on how the offseason plays out, obviously, but that's something that wouldn't surprise me at all. And at the same time, like I said before, I would give them a solid chance to come out of the West. Definitely not something I'd rule out for sure. So yeah, overall, just a really good position for the Lakers, and it's pretty crazy to me how they've sort of turned their fortunes within the last few months. Obviously, the Luka trade being the big factor there, but yeah, really crazy, and yeah, pretty awesome story. Just seeing this team, and it's really been must-watch basketball. I don't think we hit on that enough. I mean, we did really go in depth with this team, but from just a basketball standpoint, it's been so enjoyable. And I can't speak for you, but just for me, I haven't had as much fun watching this team since really the bubble era. And yeah, it's been great to watch, and really enjoying this LeBron and Luka duo for sure.
100%. Like you saw, even with the Lakers Celtics being like the highest rated game in 7 years for a regular season outing. Like that's just goes to show how fun obviously Celtics are doing, but like how incredible the Lakers are. Must see TV, and it like you're right. It's Hollywood. This is a franchise that expects a lot out of their fans expect championships out of them every single season, even as delusional as that sometimes may seem. But they've just been unbelievable, and really love the way the franchise is going. I think just a few more moves, and we'll see how the offseason plays out. But this is a team that has set themselves up for future success over the next decade, hopefully more.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think it's really been awesome, and this is a team that can really appeal to those casual fans just based off the star power, or sort of those basketball nerds just really watching how those stars mesh, and more so getting into the X's and O's, and then all the awesome role players they had that we discussed. So yeah, just a really fun team, and like we discussed, they're in a great position overall. But yeah, appreciate you joining the show, Jordan. Any closing thoughts about the Lakers?
I'm just really excited to see how the rest of the year plays out. This is an exciting time to be a Laker fan. Lovely to see how the franchise has turned itself around in the span of a few months. This is something we all dream about. We always want them to be at the best, and so far they've shown it, but they still have ways to go. I don't think they've hit the ceiling quite yet with this group, so that's going to be something I really want to keep tabs on as the rest of the year rolls on.
Yeah, absolutely. Before you head out, is there anything you want to plug? Articles, social media, anything like that?
Yeah, my writing, of course, on Last Word on Sports. I try and write as often as I can about the Lakers, but pretty active on X/, Twitter. J Pagkalinawan, the number one at the end of that, and then I've been trying to be a little better on the Instagram, JPug22 over there as well for my stuff on the Lakers and all the sports writing I've done in college. So in
Yeah, for sure. I appreciate you joining the show. Like I said, Jordan, it's great having you on. Make sure to check out some of his stuff. He has some incredible Laker content. So if you're interested in diving a little bit further into the Lakers, make sure to check out some of Jordan's work. He really does a great job. So yeah, appreciate it, Jordan.
appreciate you, man. Thank you.
Thank you for tuning into another episode of the Cassels Cast. Make sure to check out Hayden and Jordan's work. They both do a terrific job. I'll catch you guys on the next episode.